Barney Saunders. Tommy Davis was secretly recorded saying to another Scientologist who he was pressuring to disconnect from somebody that there's a reason groups do this. It's integral to their survival. Groups who don't do it get destroyed. And it's just been proven over and over and over again in Scientology's 58-year history. To whatever degree SPs scream about how horrible it is, bottom line, it is what works. It is what safeguards the church. This statement actually surprised me because it reveals that disconnection is understood within the Church of Scientology as a strategic policy to protect the organization rather than a purportedly ethical practice to separate its members from harmful elements, i.e., those defined as suppressive persons. What are your thoughts about this? Do most Scientologists view disconnection in this way? Or is this notion of disconnection as strategy limited to the upper echelons of the Church of Scientology? And what other groups that practice disconnection might have Tommy Davis been referring to? Religious groups? He can't possibly have been knowingly drawing parallels between Scientology and other destructive cults, can he? Okay, great question, Barney. And yeah, I think that's exactly what Tommy Davis was doing. Whether he knew that or not is debatable, but that is what he was doing, is he was comparing Scientology to other groups that have had to enforce shunning or disconnection or disfellowship, and he was referring specifically to he obviously was referring to JWs, Mormons to some degree, other religious groups. And this comes right out of, in fact, this kind of even helps solidify and prove my point, that I believe almost all religious groups on this in this world in history started out as destructive cults. And that's the reason for this is because the insular, us versus them, tight-knit, loyal, fiercely loyal attitude that a destructive cult creates or inculcates is necessary for a forming group to form up and keep growing. And a leader, I should say, it's perceived as necessary. It's actually not necessary, but it's perceived that way. And a narcissistic type leader in a situation like this is going to organically, whether he's ever heard of or knows anything about destructive cults, he's going to instinctively push into place us versus them, loaded language, all the characteristics that we use to describe destructive cults are the things that these kinds of leaders naturally do and the followers naturally do when they are creating this tight-knit, close group with very extreme ideas that need to be protected and that they do recognize at some level are not acceptable to the wider society around it, which is why it feels so defensive. They know they're not mainstream. They know their ideas are not in congruence with the moral code and ideas and attitudes of the society in which they live. And so they feel they have to be a bit secretive. They have to keep things, close to the vest, right? They gotta like not let anything out, and they have to have levels often of membership or degrees with which they will trust the outside world. They'll put layers between them and the outside world. So disconnection is vital to this because if a group member becomes an apostate, wants to leave, we can't have this guy lurking about telling people who are in the group why they should be leaving or why he left and sowing doubt and dissension. Can't have any of that. Those guys got to get the hell away from here. Yeah, you want to leave, but go away. And we are not talking to you anymore. And nobody here will be your friend. Nobody here is going to want to have anything to do with you because you betrayed our trust. So this is where the trust thing comes in, you see. All of this requires, all these ingredients. A group doesn't have to do this, obviously, in order to survive, but these groups believe they do. And of course, they believe that because their leader tells them that this is what they have to do. And it's very strategic. And at a certain level within the organization, they definitely recognize this. Maybe it's only the leader who recognizes it. Maybe his lieutenants, like Tommy Davis here, recognize that and are just kind of speaking, kind of bluntly, in this case, when Tommy Davis was talking to Larry Anderson on tape. So he didn't know he was being recorded, by the way. That's why he was saying that stuff. He didn't ever expect that it was going to be made public. But there you go. So I think that kind of explains the situation there. And I don't know. You let me know what you think.